She is the goddess of autumn. She is a delight, and I'm so happy to have her here today. Please welcome my guest, Pockeii Akiba.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm a bit nervous too, and I've had a long day, so I'm a little bit tired. But it just means I'm going to talk more. So.
Don't worry, you're going to be just fine. So, I'm guessing most people in the chat today are familiar with you, but for anyone who isn't, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure thing. My name is Pockeii Akiba. My name is actually pronounced Pockeii, but I tend to prefer people call me Pockeii. No, I tend to prefer it. It's okay. Yeah. So also Ponky and Ponkus. I have a lot of nicknames. Other than that, I am the goddess of autumn. I have kind of my aesthetic going for me. But other than that, I don't really have any powers to speak of other than having better luck in autumn than the rest of the seasons. And also kind of transferring that to other people who I like. So get on my good side. And yeah, so I do variety games mostly. I've been streaming for about 7 to 8 months at this point. I started streaming in February of this month, of this year. And yeah, I do mostly variety games. I don't usually do series, but I want to. And on top of that, I sometimes draw on stream, I sing on stream, neither of which I'm good at, but I still do it anyway. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, like you said, you're the goddess of autumn, and it's about to be your time of year that we're closing in on the end of summer. And I didn't plan it this way, but now that I think about it, it works out. So really glad to have you here right when things are about to start. And we also just wound up landing on a really good weekend for you because starting tomorrow, you're actually going to be doing a subathon.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing my uncapped subathon, so it's gonna be a long one, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It seems like you have a lot of things planned for that, some really fun stretch goals that we're going to be getting to. But for starters, obviously, autumn is your thing. You have it as just part of your persona, part of your background, that everything about you, you've got the just warm orange and brown palette. What is it about autumn that is so special to you? Is there anything in particular that really, I guess, just speaks to you? Are there any favorite aspects of autumn that you hold particularly dear? Things like that?
Sure. So, first of all, I am technically, even though I was born in December, which is, typically thought of as like a winter month. Winter doesn't even start until like 21st. But I am technically an autumn baby. So, not only was I born then in that season, my body temperature tends to prefer autumn and cooler temperatures. And yeah, because like I'm the kind of person who like lives in an icebox.
Oh, Kimmy Lean, thank you so much for the raid.
Kimmy, hi Kimmy. It's my friend.
Oh. Well, welcome. You all got here just in time. We just began.
Yeah. Hi guys. So I was gonna say, so while everyone else is like, oh, this is like, it's really cold in this room, I'm like, this is perfect. What are you talking about? So, and then on the other hand, the aesthetic is very comforting to me. I unfortunately do think of myself as a pretty basic bitch. I do love a good pumpkin spice latte.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
And I'm a big coffee fan and a big fan of like comfort and things like that. And I just think winter is just not a very comfy time of year compared to fall. So I don't know. Mostly when I compare fall to other seasons, I like it better.
I definitely enjoy colder weather myself because it's easier to get warm when you're cold than to get cold when you're warm.
Yeah.
The only reason that I don't particularly like autumn sometimes is that my allergies flare up, but that's nature not liking me, not so much me not liking nature.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, Oktoberfest is like, I've been to a lot of Oktoberfests.
I've never actually been to an Oktoberfest, and I know sort of the stereotype that it's based in German culture roots and obviously a lot of beer, but please sell me on some Oktoberfest said. I assume it has to be more than just the stereotype. So what should I be looking for in a good Oktoberfest?
Well, the thing is, most of my Oktoberfest I attended were when I was a kid. So I was not allowed to drink beer,
Mm,
obviously. And so usually they'd have like games. You do a lot of stuff with leaves in Oktoberfest. Like you would do like art and stuff. Mostly, I'm talking like kid things.
yeah, arts and
Things that
crafts.
if you went there, you would not be doing these things. For an adult, keg stands. Oh, the food is fantastic. Typically, you have a lot of sausage because
Mm,
it's German
yeah.
roots and everything. And like I just remember as a kid that we had like rock climbing walls. They had great music too. Um, and it was just like such a nice environment.
Yeah.
Like and
It
I
sort of
don't
makes
know
me
all
think
that can
of
combine. Yeah.
something like almost half Renaissance festival, but take out the more medieval parts because it still has, the heritage roots of somewhat old timey stuff that people will dress up in more traditional garb for it. Not so much having the knights in armor and whatnot, but very similar types of stalls and stands, interesting fair food and drinks,
Yeah, I
but
think the
more
biggest
based
thing
in
is
the
aesthetic.
season than in a particular era.
Absolutely. I think the food is probably my favorite because I'm a big
Mm.
foodie.
Oh,
So
yes,
like,
same.
I feel like having like, because sausage is so good, and then they do like all these different things with it, and you get like all these different foods that you don't normally eat. It's nice. And I did go to a Ren Fair recently, and it did remind me of that. But I think Oktoberfest would be a lot smaller in comparison.
Makes sense,
Mhm.
yeah. I
And
definitely
less
do want to.
expensive.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's honestly the hidden hazard of Renfest, that they can be very pricey if you don't plan for them properly.
Everything is handmade there, so it makes sense. But it's
Yeah.
it's so expensive.
Do you have a particular favorite presentation of sausage or just a favorite meal that you've had at an Oktoberfest?
Um, huh. Good question. I don't know. It's been so long.
Hmm.
I don't think I can answer that question properly.
Fair enough.
Because
We'll just go with all of
I
it
just
is
eat
good.
anything is the thing.
For sure, yeah.
Mhm,
Um, so you mentioned pumpkin spice.
mhm.
I do enjoy pumpkin spice, and it's sort of sad that it has received the stereotypical stigma of being, as you said, basic, but it's such a unique type of flavor that you really don't get, and I wish it would be honestly just something that people enjoyed more year round. I wish it was more ubiquitous, that
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was included all over it. Do you have any favorite pumpkin products, whether it be just, a latte or pie or
yeah.
any particular use of pumpkin flavoring?
Latte. I don't really
Mhm.
like. I mean, I like pumpkin pie, but unless it has like, I don't know. I'm weird about the texture of pumpkin. It's weird. I like the flavor of it, but it can't have that texture. I don't
That's
know.
fair,
Maybe
yeah. Depending on how it's prepared, it can sometimes,
yeah.
have that slight stringiness, which
Yeah,
just
exactly.
it's and I can definitely identify with that. That if I have pumpkin pie, I want it to be a much smoother preparation where it's,
Yeah.
whipped up and lighter and not having that consistency. I think it's
Mm.
similar to why some people really don't like coconut, that just the texture
Ah,
and
yeah.
consistency, not so much the taste, that really turns people off from it.
Yeah, I also am not a big fan of the coconut texture, but I do like the coconut flavor. So it's like
Mm-mm.
it's always like that.
Yeah. North German, thank you for the follow, by the way. Also, I see you're already sporting your autumn jacket. That's one of the fun parts of your design, that you have the special, very sort of puffy
Yes.
autumn jacket.
Very cozy. Yes, yes. And it's a very expensive jacket. Very pricey. Can't get anywhere. Custom made. Lots of fluff, lots of coziness, and no, you can't have it.
Mhm. Hey, the best coats out there are the ones that are expensive, but they last you for years.
Yeah, yeah. And this one will never ever go, and it will never go bad.
Certainly the benefits of having it be virtual.
Yeah. I can take it off too.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! I'll just put it back on. Cause it's cozy in here. Autumn's almost here. I gotta be prepped.
Yeah, you
I
have
can't let
to,
my guard down.
set the mood, be prepared for
Mhm,
the season. It's going to be a good
mhm,
time.
mhm.
So Lately, as you mentioned, you're a variety streamer. One of the games you've been playing these past few days is a game, I suppose, that isn't terribly comfy, at least not on its surface. It's called Death Road to Canada,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not your average zombie game. I had never actually seen it before the other day, but it's super fun. It's this sort of 16-bit-ish survival, not quite horror that, yes, it is zombies, yes, it's apocalyptic, but it's too cute to be totally horror.
It's goofy too.
Yeah.
It's very goofy. Because the thing is, like, I'm a big fan of YouTubers like RT Game and Call Me Kevin, and they play a lot of games like that are like goofy and like kind of one-offy, and like, and this one's kind of an Oregon Trail style zombie game.
Yeah, I
And
like that analogy.
yeah, and so I really like games like that like, you know, have like a little bit of micromanagement in them, but also an element of craziness. For example, I'm a big fan of Project Zomboid, both zombie games. And then like I was a big fan of The Escapists and things like that. Like, oddly enough, they're all like kind of 16-bit. So, well, it's just because they run the best on my PC, I think too. But like, yeah, I'm a big fan of those kinds of games. I think like Simulator, also RimWorld and things like that. I'm a big fan of those kinds of games that I can really lose myself in and really just try to get to the end or get as big and beautiful as possible.
Yeah, this particular one, some of the resources you're managing, you actually have morale as not quite a resource, but it is a active stat on the characters. One of the big things that you're managing sort of resource and currency wise is gas and food. That food actually is the primary currency in the game.
Yeah. And that's the worst part because you need it to pay for things, but you also need to eat, and they use so much food per day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it makes for a lot
Especially
of
if you have 4
really
people.
interesting choices that you have to make. So I like that in a game's design where you have that active tension because it means that you have to really be smart and judicious of how you use everything.
Yeah. And also, it's also kind of wacky because like some random things will happen, like bandits will pull up, or like a black hole or something will appear. You throw a character in there, they come out as the opposite gender and as their name reversed or something like that.
I haven't been tuned in when there's been a black hole happening.
It happened before. I had my V brother Gomo. You can make custom characters, so I had all like my V siblings in there. And I threw Gomo into like a vortex, and then he came out as Omag.
Oh dear, oh
And he
dear.
had longer hair.
Phoenix Blade 09, thank you for the follow. One of the more just particularly absurd things that I saw, it was yesterday during the stream. You saw a person on the side of the road as you were going down that you're hopefully driving at most points in time, but that's one of the things you have to use gas for, as well as some weapons. But if you run out of gas, you have to walk. But in this case, you were driving and you saw a hitchhiker, and it was described as this very large, scary person in a mask. And it was a question of, do you stop for them because they are staring at you? And I'm sitting here as a viewer thinking, oh gosh, this, you know, how many just death flag tropes are we triggering right here? You should not pick this person up. But you were running low on party members because people come, people go, people sometimes die. And the goal of the game is to get to Canada, even if it's not with the person that you started your journey with.
Yeah.
So you decided to pick them up, and surprisingly enough, it was just this very happy person. Their name was just 3 question marks. They didn't say much, but they were happy to be there, and they got in the car, and they didn't kill you.
No, actually, eventually they did. Though.
I was going to say yet, because do you want to tell the second half of the story?
Sure, yeah. So we had like a siege or something, or I think we lost our car, and you have to go find a new car. And I had 3 party members, and one of them was it was basically just Jason, but with like
yeah,
but he was just a party
pretty
member.
much Jason, and they weren't saying Jason for copyright reasons.
Yeah. And so like you go find the car. I lost my party members. I jumped in the car, and I thought he was in the car, but he wasn't, so I left without him. And I thought that was the end of it. I thought he was done.
Yeah, because you were being attacked on all sides by zombies, and I saw you hop in the car, and I thought that he had jumped in too. I didn't realize that you had to wait for him or maybe you had to put in some sort of command to get him in the car, but
Yeah,
you
you had to
drove off
wait. Yeah.
because you were being surrounded, and once you were in the car, you're like, oh no, we're alone. Ah,
Well,
crud.
he's
He
gone,
was
and
he
then
was
like,
really strong and powerful. It's sad that we left him behind.
and then a day later, he came back, and and the text described it as my party member that was left mysteriously vanished or left for some reason.
Yeah, he went away. They didn't
He
say
must
that.
have left.
Yeah, they didn't say that Jason took him out and brutally murdered him for abandoning him in a junkyard full of zombies. No, certainly not.
No, he must have just left. Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
And then- but
Jason
then-
also met his doom shortly afterwards.
Yeah, at least you get to keep playing as him, even if he killed the other party member.
Yeah.
At least you get to play as him, but then he died instantly. So-
Yeah.
'Cause,
It makes for a fun narrative.
protect him. I couldn't protect him, sadly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love
But yeah,
games like that.
it's such a fun game, and like it's like I haven't even scratched the surface of it yet. I feel like there's so many weird characters that you can meet, and like you want to keep going to Canada even if you make it more than once, because then you can unlock new things, you can get new achievements. Like
Yeah, and everything is procedurally generated. It's all random.
Yeah, it's procedurally generated, kind of like roguelike when you go into the cities.
Yeah, and you mentioned, sorry about that, I cut you off, but you were talking about a toilet genie, which I did see today.
He tried to make my character immortal, but it didn't work, so I don't quite understand the mechanics of that, but I will figure it out. I will look it up.
I'm more just sort of stunned at, okay, so we're dealing with toilet genies here, but fortunately the characters took it in stride.
Yeah, they did. And but unfortunately we died shortly after that. It's a hard game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things of it can take a while to get there. This isn't a short game per run, even if you're being successful, but it still takes a lot to actually get a successful run in the first place.
Yeah, and I did do it off stream just by playing. And I should mention this. So I am getting married soon, not in real life. I have two of my best friends who I call my wives, Stella Bunn and Adela Myers. So we are getting married soon in Minecraft in like maybe a couple weeks or so. But I added them to the game, and Stella is originally from Canada, so I was trying to get her back.
Oh, get her home.
And I did. She was the only one who survived. But that was all off stream, so I was sad that I didn't stream that part.
Well, one of the really other cool parts about the game is it has this awesome soundtrack that I almost want to call it slightly jazzy, but it's got a bit of rock, and it's still chiptunes, but it's really, really nice. And on the note of game soundtracks, the BGM that we have right now, which was suggested by you, is Zelda. It's just, I think it's called Zelda and Chill, just lo-fi Zelda music. And obviously, Legend of Zelda is very much known for its music. Do you have any favorite Legend of Zelda tracks or games?
Tracks? Midna's Lament, I remember really loving as a kid. That was one of my favorites of all time. I really loved Twilight Princess back in the day.
That is actually my favorite Zelda game.
Yeah. And I never really finished Skyward Sword, but I would love to play it, maybe on stream someday. And I'm trying to think of the others. I really loved Ocarina of Time. I want to play Majora's Mask on stream first, actually. There's so many I missed, but I still love the series. And like I really loved Breath of the Wild, obviously. A lot of people did. And I'm trying to think. Link to the Past and also Link Between Worlds. Both of those games I love.
I've played Link to the Past. I haven't played Link Between Worlds. But
it's on the DS, so it's kind of inaccessible now.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, I do remember that one being released, just never got around to it. Like I said, Twilight Princess is definitely my favorite of them all. I think it has the best final boss sequence of any Zelda game, and honestly, one of the best final boss sequences of any game, period.
A lot of stages.
It's 4 stages, and well, the game's been out for long enough. Statute of limitations on spoilers. Mute for a couple seconds if you really don't want to hear, but it was just so powerful because you have the first 2 stages. It's Possess Zelda and then Beast Ganon, and after you beat that, Midna has what looks like this heroic sacrifice. Hyrule Castle explodes, and you think, oh gosh, this is a really just heartrending finale. We've beaten Ganon, but at the cost of Midna. And then the dust clears, and you see Ganon just rearing up on the horse, crushing Midna's mask, and you have that moment of, oh no, it's not over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really, really well set up too. Yeah, and I also really love the reveal at the end and her going back to her
and then you actually get the heartrending finale at the end of it all.
Really, really good game.
Plus, just one of the most intense one-on-one sword fights with Ganon at the end of it. That it's just a proper duel to the death between you and him, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also really enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I finally got around to playing that about a year ago now, so I was a bit late to the game there, but it's definitely number 2 on my power ranking. That I thought it did a lot of really fun things. I'm definitely looking forward to the sequel, which is supposedly supposed to come out next year. Hopefully we'll be able to see it then.
Yeah, I have my doubts. They tend to delay these things, but hopefully, Hopefully,
yes.
I would say quarantine has probably kicked their ass. So.
Yeah.
But on top of that, like, yeah, the original Breath of the Wild is also just really relaxing and beautiful.
So easy to just get lost in it.
Absolutely, and like you can explore for freaking hours and not get bored in that game. You always find new things too.
Yeah, and one of the interesting parts about that game for its sound design is that music is not always playing. That there are stretches that you'll get where it's just the environmental sounds, the ambient noises of wind or rain or whatever's going on around you, and then the music will slowly fade in, and you'll have that for a couple minutes, but then it can become silent again, and it's just very serene, but also can be very unnerving depending on where you are. That if you know, okay, I'm trying to creep up on this moblin camp and I need to make sure that I don't alert them.
Yeah, and then it gets really quiet.
Yeah. The Hyrule Castle theme on that one that's probably my favorite iteration of that particular theme, because when you're inside, it has this super haunting organ arrangement of it. But when you step outside, you get this full brass arrangement, along with what sounds like the stomping of marching troops to the beat. It's just, chung, 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 chung.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a band geek, or that's a lie, I'm a big band geek. So I really enjoy that type of thing.
Nice. Yeah, I barely remember the Hyrule Castle one. So I didn't spend much time in Hyrule Castle. I kind of ran through it. I was terrified.
Very fair.
It was a really intense sequence. It's so hard to get through.
Yeah, that's the only real dungeon that you have in the game, but boy, do they make it a good single dungeon.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And like, I think though my favorite parts is probably the Koroks and things like all the collectible stuff and all the secrets that you can find that aren't even side quests. They're just there. I just find that really cool.
That's the fun part of it, is just instead of there being side quests, everything is a side quest. Technically, you don't need to defeat a single divine beast. You probably should. Otherwise, last boss is going to be really tough for you. But you have so much freedom there.
Tell that to the speedrunners. They somehow just cobble it all together, and they're just like, they just hit the rock and they're gone.
Yep. Yeah, I could never do something like that. But respect to the speedrunners, those absolute mad folks.
God, I could never spend that much time on a game because, like, I mentioned this before, but to you when we were doing the prep thing, but I can't replay games very often. I even struggled, like, I love Persona 5 with all my heart. I struggled to replay it for Royal. It was so hard. It's such a long game. So I just could not. Like,
and for that one in particular, because that I love Persona 5 as well. Honestly, it's probably in my top 10 games that I've played. But the problem with that game, especially from a replayability standpoint, is there isn't a ton of variation. That it's
not really.
Certainly an RPG in the sense that you get to choose, what attacks you use, what's your party composition, equipment, what are you going to do for your social links, but there's nothing random about where the enemies are going to be or what you can find where, that it's very scripted in that sense. So if you're replaying, yes, you can try different arrangements of party members and equipment, but for strategy purposes, there's not going to be too much to discover there.
Absolutely. And like, you know, you can add all the new cutscenes, all the new characters you want, even in the new version. But most of it's just going to be the same because it's already a freaking like 60+ hour game.
Yeah.
So they decided to re-release it and add on to it. So you have to go through the 60+ hours and then like plus another 20 hours. So, and if you fuck it up, if you don't max out the 3 relationships you're supposed to max out,
then you don't get the extra stuff.
You don't get it. And I didn't. I ignored one of the characters because I didn't care about him because he was new, and I'm like, I don't care about this guy. And then it turns out I had to care. So
Like,
it was a big slap in the face. I had to redo the last palace, and then the palace after that, and then I had to redo the big boss at the end.
That's another one. It has a very good final boss sequence for the first time through. Yeah, that's the trouble. That replaying it, it's a bit of a grind, but it's really good and climactic the first time because it has its own phase. And oh gosh, is this actually the final boss? And then finding out, no, wait, there's another form. But then you also have to go through a couple more obstacles and other enemies in order to get there. I
hate the ones pre-final boss. I hate those guys. I skip them if I can.
Yeah.
They're
one
so
of the things...
hard, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, you learn to be stealthy, and at some points of the game, you're like, all right, I just want to farm XP. I want to just find every enemy I can, mop them up, get myself leveled up, and go. But about that time, the game is the perfect length for a first playthrough because I could feel myself getting a bit weary of it all just at the end. But, you know, the cinematic nature of everything and just the excitement of, okay, I know I'm getting to the climax here, kept me going. But I feel like if it was 1 or 2 palaces more, that it would have been too much.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember that was about the time that I started to just really lean into the stealth of it all and be like, okay, how many enemies can I not fight?
Exactly. Like you know, the music is amazing, and you get into a boss fight and you go and you know they start the violins and everything. I'm like, this is so cool. And then after like maybe 50 million fights, you're like, oh, okay,
I do wish that there were more variations on the main fight theme. That
they did have it in Royal.
That's good.
They swap it up.
That's
and
good.
And if you get different outfits, then they play a different song. But that requires you to go and change the song.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Last Surprise is amazing. But
great
hearing
song,
it for 50 hours, any
now.
song's going to get old. I don't care how good it is.
It came out a long time ago at this point.
Yeah.
It came out... Persona 5 came out when the PS3 was still making games. And that was ages ago. So... yeah, it's just a lot. And like... You know, and the new one that they use in Royal is also really good, but like that also grates on you after a while.
Yeah, anything will start to just become a nuisance when you get to that many hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great game. Looking forward to 6 whenever that comes out. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, but don't hold your breath because it's going to be a while.
Yeah. And even if 6 comes out, I just want them to release more 5 content. I like the characters from 5. I don't need a Persona 6. I just want Persona 5 fucking whatever next iteration.
5.5.
Please, I just want more. The thing is, like, I have such an attachment to Akechi as a character.
Oh, okay. Because he's obviously a controversial character.
Yes, absolutely. But I was so peeved that he wasn't in Scramble, or the Persona 5 Scramble, the new one on the Switch and everything. He's not in the game, and I just find that really uncompelling. Have him in
there at all?
No, because he's just not in the game. So it doesn't. No spoilers, but like he's just not in the fucking game, and they don't even fucking mention him, and I'm just like, I'm
You could at
over it.
least
I don't want to
reference
play
him,
it.
acknowledge his existence.
No, they didn't. They said they
Boo.
added an old man who is apparently part of the Phantom Thieves now.
Aw.
And yeah, it is what it is. So I'm sitting in my tower waiting for my prince to appear in another game. I don't think it's gonna happen. I just
Probably
want it.
not.
No. So I'm just stuck in fanfiction hell until that happens.
Actually, you mentioned fanfiction. You are actually a writer.
Yeah, I'm a writer. Yeah, it's embarrassing because most of what I write is fanfiction. So, and I do have on my subathon goal read Pockei's fanfictions. So that will happen hopefully if we hit the stretch goal. I made it a stretch goal because I don't want it to happen. So.
All right, folks. All the more reason. Go crazy tomorrow with the subathon.
No. They're both Persona 5 fanfics and they're both Akechi centric. So. But obviously I have a backlog of other stuff from my childhood that was mostly like Sonic. At one point it was Twilight. Yakuza. I was a big fan of Yakuza. And I'm just trying to think of other things I've written fanfiction for, but it's hard.
So are these Persona 5 ones pieces that you've written in the past several years, or were these ones that you wrote closer to the release of Persona 5?
So I actually was late to the game of Persona 5. So I played it in like 2018, I think. A little bit before a little bit before Royal, I think. Maybe because I played it when I got back from Japan. Yeah, it was in 2018. Okay. Yeah, so in 2018 I played it. And that was like 2 years after it came out or something around. So it was around that time. Yeah. So 2019 mid.
Okay. So at the very least, these are more recent ones that your writing skills are more honed, because I presume that I feel like no writer likes reading their own writing, but I feel like most writers can still appreciate the improvement of their own writing over past writing, because the farther back it goes, the more you cringe at yourself. Even if you still cringe at your stuff today, you don't cringe at it as much as you do what you wrote 5 years ago.
That's true, but also I feel like sometimes I cringe more at what I write nowadays, just because I'm just like, I can do better. I look at the stuff I write now, I'm just like, I can do better. If I look at it from back then, I'm just like, oh, she was, not great. Like, I don't know, there's something like nice and nostalgic about reading something I wrote as a kid. But like, if I wrote that shit now, or no, not even that. If I wrote something now and I reread it, I'm just like, oh, this kind of sucks. I shouldn't even release it or something like that. Which I think is a common problem with writers.
Yeah, I feel like it's similar to nobody likes hearing their own voice. Nobody likes hearing themselves sing. Even if you accept, all right, I am good at the thing that I do, there's a certain awkwardness and just discomfort, because everyone is their own worst critic. Even if it's subtle or something that most people wouldn't realize, okay, I feel like I was a bit pitchy when I get to this part of the song, or gosh, I remember I had to rewrite this passage 50 times and I'm still not satisfied with how it turned out.
Absolutely,
and it's just
Yeah. I am hoping though, like, if on the off chance we do hit that goal, I'm hoping that rereading my fanfics will maybe get me back into it, because it's been a bit since I wrote, because I've been streaming and I got really busy, and I was between a job and streaming, and I was doing both, and I was way too busy. And then I ended up losing my job a couple months ago, being like more full-time streamer. And even then I was just like, I just wasn't really feeling it anymore, because I was just like, nothing was going right. And so I was just kind of like, I'm just not gonna write. So I'm hoping that, opening up myself to exposing my writing a bit might help, but I'm not willing to do it unless people want it. So
have you ever considered doing a fanfic writing stream? So one where you're writing, but also potentially sort of bouncing ideas off of chat. I wonder if it would make things less cringy if you feel like it's sort of a collaboration with the chat, because then all right, this idea came from someone else, or someone else helped me find the word that I was searching for to help
Mm,
smooth out this passage. And then when you reread it, it's not all just, okay, I'm my own worst critic, that it maybe sort of the joint creation of it all there might make it a bit
mhm.
more palatable in a reread, plus make for fun content. I'm just spitballing here, but
I mean,
uh,
yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be a good idea. My thing is, I'm terrified of writing in front of people. I don't know why, because I feel like it would just be like a word vomit of things like on like not a word vomit, but like I guess for example, I watch Meridoc stream sometimes, and he did a
hmm.
stream or two where he was writing comics on stream. Hi, Mocha. Okay.
Moi Moi Mocha, thank you for the follow.
So he was writing on stream, and he's literally just writing. He's not saying anything, and I'm like, I could never do that
Oh yeah, I
because
don't think I could do that, but
I couldn't.
I'm
Because like
thinking
you can
more
see
of,
what he's writing, and he
yeah.
deletes things. I'm like, I don't want people to see what I delete. Like, there's a reason I delete it, and like I'm just like, I don't have the balls to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do something like that where it's just all right, full on. Everyone gets to watch me in a solo creative process.
Well, not
If I
even
were to do it,
that.
I'd
Like,
want it to be, like I said, that type of collaboration where it's like, okay, chat, so I have a direction I want to go in, and you still steer the ship, but
yeah,
that it's
because otherwise I'd be terrified. What if my idea sucks so bad that people say something about it?
yeah, that's the other thing, that if it's a collaboration with chat, you can throw chat under the bus as much as yourself.
That is true. That is true. I could do that. I do often blame them for things. So.
I feel like every streamer does.
But yeah, that could be an idea. I mean, I think first I would need to overcome the idea
Yeah.
that, like, I am a good writer and I need to accept that, but there's a part of my brain kind of just blocking that.
Yeah,
So,
totally understandable. I'm just the type of
right.
person that likes, throwing out random ideas, and if one out of every couple ends up being okay, or if someone is able to, take what I say and then think of their own iteration that's better than my idea, cool. But
Yeah.
obviously, you know what type of content you're going to be best at and what you're going to be most comfortable with. And honestly, that's the sign of a good content creator, of just knowing yourself. And
Yeah.
that's what's most important at the end of the day. So certainly don't take my suggestions as, I know that I don't know better than you what is best for you.
Mm-hmm. I know, but yeah, it does mean something when you say that. It does actually make me feel better about it.
In addition to fanfics, you also actually write screenplays, and that was something that I didn't know until we were talking yesterday. Because I think
Mhm.
I remember you mentioning fanfics during some of your streams, but I never heard you mention screenplays before.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I think that that's something that a lot of people don't know about me, and that's something that, like, because I used to wanna be a TV writer, that's what I wanted to do, and because I was never really comfortable using a camera, and I did graduate in a film-related major, um, and I wanted to write behind the scenes. I didn't really want it to be I didn't wanna do on-site work very much, and I didn't wanna be in front of the camera at all. So, yeah, so I wanted to be a screenwriter, so I learned to screenwrite. And I have some ideas for like series and stuff. One particular one. And yeah, so that's basically all. If I'm working on a script, that's basically all I'm working on, though. Is that one idea?
I didn't actually know that it was in particular for TV that you'd mentioned screenwriting,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure if that was for film or something else, but TV in particular. So what draws you to that type of writing? And are we talking, 23-minute episode sort of serialized things? Are we talking mini series that might have hour-long episodes with a very contained run? What type of writing or just series structure in general appeals to you most?
Probably a miniseries. Because I think that actually, you know what? What draws me to TV the most is the longevity of it. Um,
Mm,
because movies, like, they only last a certain amount of time, and you don't get to fit everything that you want to in it if you have a really big idea or you have a really big world to explore. And the budget can be kind of crazy too. So I thought maybe like working on something more focused on keeping it on screen in somebody's home where somebody could like binge watch would be something that I would prefer. Because I'm more of a TV watcher than a movie watcher. And yeah, so yeah, I just So I think that for my idea for a series, I would be thinking like a supernatural type of thing.
Ooh.
Like not every episode wouldn't be different, but like it would be a very long running thing, and it would
Mm.
have multiple different experiences going through.
Would you, does your concept lend itself more to you use Supernatural as an example, that type of show where it is a bit of an action, but also has fantasy elements to it?
Mhm.
Or is that just an example that you use for the longevity and style of storytelling? That what type of genre, if you don't mind saying,
Mhm.
do you end up writing more towards?
So I guess I can use an example of what my idea is. It's like a western, but also kind of like a supernatural and so it takes place in like the West, like the Wild West, but also it's kind of like in like one of the main characters is from the Great Britain, and he's like thousands of years old. He's like a zombie man, and like he comes over. He's like a big businessman, and he takes over everything, and like the community is trying to like fight back against him in some ways,
Mm.
and um so it's I don't know what genre that
Yeah, that's
is.
interesting because it's interesting that when you describe it, you describe the antagonist more than the protagonist. That
I
the
do
protagonist you
because
describe
he's my
as,
big guy.
yeah, that you describe the protagonist here as the local community at large, not
Well,
a
yeah, it's
particular
the town
individual.
sheriff is the main
Oh,
character, but
okay, okay.
I'm not super like I'm still kind of iffy about him, but I'm super sure on like the antagonist and all of his posse and all of his
Mm,
entire life is planned out, his future is planned out, and just the personality of the protagonist kind of escapes me, and that's what keeps me from finishing it.
mhm.
So I just need something to click for that.
Yeah, and I can understand that because, let's be honest, villains are usually more interesting
Yeah.
characters than the heroes. That just they usually have bigger personalities,
Mhm.
they have more fun dialogue,
Yeah.
and the big problem that you always have with the hero character, and it doesn't matter if it's a children's show or if it's something big and sprawling like Lord of the Rings or like Supernatural, that the good guy is usually the good guy, and while they can have deep and complex backstory,
Mhm.
that usually the the way that they operate is going to be straightforward in the sense that at least in Dungeons and Dragons term, they're usually
Yeah.
going to be neutral good or lawful good.
Yeah, and that could be boring.
Yeah, whereas the villain, you never know what they're going to do, and just
Yeah.
they get to have these big crazy monologues. They usually have some flashy style because they're the villain,
Mhm.
and uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's a reason people always like the villain characters.
Yeah, part of me, originally it was just gonna be focused on that one character who's the villain now, but I thought it'd be more interesting if well, now I think about it, what if it was just him? I don't know. I don't know. It's been in pre-writing for so many years, and like I've just changed my mind about so many things. And then I focused on other things like actually getting a job and actually streaming, and then like it kind of fell in the back burner. So,
Yeah, and that
yeah.
happens sometimes, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But it's cool that you have this concept, and who knows, ideas like this don't have an expiration date, and
Mhm.
maybe someday, out of the blue, totally random, you'll just have this epiphany of like, that's the hero character. That's what it's been this whole time, and you got it, and it'll be when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll just eventually find a day or a week, and you're like, I'm feeling really inspired right now, and that you'll work through it and find it. But that can be whenever, and that's what's nice about it.
Yeah, one day I'll return to it. Maybe when I'm step my toe outside of my fan fiction phase, where I'm constantly just writing on my phone different Persona 5 fanfic ideas.
That's the hero. It's a catchy.
No, he's not a hero. Oh my god, but what if? I don't know. I'm tired. Oh my god. Sorry. All right. Oh,
So,
sorry. When
yeah,
people
no.
bring up Akechi, I get caught off guard. I fucking love him. My chat knows I get like really feral.
All right, Chad, I'm
That's
giving
why
you
I said
extra
no.
ammo, extra notes here.
That's why I said no. I was like, please, you can't bring him up again. Moving on.
Moving on, yes. So, if you were to do the screenplay and pitch it, do you have like this dream of, all right, I'd want it to be released via, this network or this platform? Do you have any sort of, pie in the sky dreams of if things were to happen, how you would want to ultimately present it to the world?
That's the problem. I have no idea because there's so many now. There's so many.
That's true. It's easier than ever to get your stuff out there because it used to be back in the day, the amount of new things that could come out is literally limited by the number of hours in the day multiplied by the number of networks.
Yeah.
And that limit does not exist anymore.
No,
because
it's everywhere.
You don't have to worry about broadcast hours in a day. It's just any platform can host anything. And that's really cool for creators because
it's just a lot of money too. Though.
Yeah. It's definitely more opportunity, but there's so much more competition and it's certainly not easy.
Yeah.
Just
and
different.
Part of me would be very comfortable just staying in the internet lane.
Nothing wrong with that.
If I actually made that series, I'd probably just want to sell the screenplay and like just see how it unfolds sometimes. Because right now I'm just tired and I just don't want to work on things.
Very fair.
I feel like it's more in my lane just to stay here and just watch my ideas, take flourish in some other capacity. I don't need to be in control of everything I make. That's not something that I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
I just want to see it grow and just become something. And and like there's always people who are like, this is my idea, like this is my thing, this is mine, and nobody can touch it. No, it's very different for me. I don't care if people touch my stuff.
Yeah, and some people make very successful careers out of just writing and pitching pilots. Even if they don't end up writing anything other than the concept and that first pilot episode, there are very real careers to be made there as writers, because then if it gets sold to a network, that even if they're not writing every episode beyond there, that just if Sci-Fi or Netflix or whoever picks it up, that you can do that, and then you get to write your next pilot and then shop it around and sell that pilot. And there's that whole sort of, I don't want to call it unconventional, but it's not a type of writing career that most people think of or necessarily realize exists.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be in control of their properties, and that's good, but also it's a lot of work because you don't realize how much work it is to bring something to life until you cross that bridge or you get to that bridge. And I just feel like, I mean, at my point in life, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And I also think that it would be really, really cool to come up with these characters and this experience and this line, and even like an outline of like where the story is gonna go, and then give it to somebody and have them bring it to life or watch them bring it to life. Then you'd be surprised,
Yeah.
I think that would be really fun.
Do you have any favorite series of your own? Just whether it be TV, film, books, whatever, that just may have inspired you in your own writing, that you feel, oh wow, that they, even if it's not something that you go to today and say this is my favorite series ever, that it's one that may have had some influence on you or your writing?
Definitely Supernatural was a big one. I was, I really liked, the big three back in the Tumblr days, which was the Supernatural and then Doctor Who and Sherlock.
Super Hulock. Oh yeah, those days on Tumblr.
I didn't mix them like everyone else did, no. But I did I did watch all three series and I did appreciate and enjoy them. Nowadays I don't watch TV as much. I list my favorite show as Sonic X. So, which is
I still have that theme song memorized. If people hate on 4Kids, and I've given my rant on why 4Kids is actually the savior of anime.
It was. I literally did a project on that.
Oh my gosh! Somebody else who. So now I'm super curious because we did not actually discuss this before. So I actually want to compare notes on this, on how we arrived at this. The TLDR of my rant is that 4Kids really helped bring anime to the United States, to the West, And the way they did it was they did public broadcast.
Yep.
That they were not on cable because they were really hitting their stride, late 90s, early 2000s, when cable was not ubiquitous in the West. And the issue with that is cable, at least in the United States, is subject to FCC regulations. FCC regulations, which include things like you can't show a child in moral peril, no smoking, guns are a very sensitive thing and can only be used in particular circumstances and never pointed at a child. So there were all these different things, and that's before you do certain localization changes, such as the infamous jelly donut from Pokemon.
And the gun scene from Yu-Gi-Oh, which I fucking adore.
That the gun scene in Yu-Gi-Oh, like I said, FCC, that wasn't a 4Kids choice. But it was a 4Kids choice to release on public broadcast versus on cable like you had for Dragon Ball. And I think that the choice to do public broadcast was ultimately the right one because it meant that more households got it, and it meant that it provided that gateway for a lot of people into anime. That for all of the criticisms and crazy things, that I do not think that the anime industry would be half of what it is today in the US if it had not been for those series being on public broadcast at that time. Not to say that the anime industry couldn't get to where it is today, but I think it got there faster and got to where it is right now because it had that foundation and because 4Kids took the liberties that they did to make it accessible. And while some of it feels cringy looking back, they were being pseudo pioneers, and their choices there made it so a lot of people got into anime.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly, like, my project was literally on the influence of 4Kids and how it shaped how anime was brought over to the West, and you basically covered literally every single point I made. And I even I was definitely I was doing research into the FCC regulations and things because people were accusing 4Kids of making it so that they were doing it to market to children, and that's just not what they were doing entirely.
It was part of it.
It was part of it, but there were rules that they had to follow to
be broadcast.
And it's a big difference, because you can accuse them of trying to censor and being I will say there was no reason they got rid of a lot of Japanese text and just left things blank, and that was a little strange, but it wasn't really the point of my project. And I did notice it.
That's more of a production thing, cutting corners of, all right, you'll edit it out and not put in the time and effort and, frankly, funds to put in the new text. But that's not so much creative as it is, like I said, budgetary and production considerations.
Absolutely. And they made it it made it easier for them to distribute it to other countries and do different dubs rather than just English.
Yeah, because then they don't need to be redoing the English to Spanish or to German or wherever in the different territories that they're going to release, that they can have this one standardized file and product that they can just get templated out to whatever markets they're distributing in.
Yeah. The one thing that I feel like they could have avoided was the jelly donut.
Yes. That one...
They really could have avoided that.
Yeah, and I can understand, all right, the concept of an onigiri, of a rice ball, is not one that is common in the United States.
You could just say rice ball.
At the same time, kids are not dumb. Kids know what donuts are. And even a kid can look at that and know, I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I know it's not a jelly donut.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly animated it so it was rice. And you know what? They did a better job later by actually just replacing items with sandwiches and shit.
It's one thing if you do those types of edits and localize it entirely, but you can't just do the dialogue if the visuals don't match, because even a kid will have that sort of, huh?
They tried later. I think after the first one, they were like, okay, we actually have to do something.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna localize it, we're gonna make it look like it's not in Japan. We better just edit.
Yeah. And the other thing that not everyone realizes is, at least most of the time, when companies license anime from the creators or distributors, whoever the right holder is in Japan, that usually it comes with a clause that says any changes must be approved by the rights holder.
Yep. So they approved it. So
yeah, all these things that happen, regardless of how crazy we think they are, somebody along the line had to approve it, that it wasn't just unilateral, that they took it and they made these horrible changes that insulted the creator. No, they got the green light.
And to be fair, none of it really insulted the creator at all. It was just simple changes of
doesn't change the nature of the plot. Doesn't change
like
the characters.
Changes, text changes, things like that. Sometimes theme changes if like it's too inappropriate for kids. Like the beach episode was a big issue, and you know, it's always stuff that it's understandable. You know. Yeah.
That's super cool. We did not discuss that yesterday, so it's neat, one, that I get to have that type of conversation with somebody who already sort of knows that type of thing and realize, oh yeah, yay, we have this sort of shared niche knowledge here. But also the fact that you've gone even farther than me with it, of just that you got to write a paper on it. That's super cool.
Yeah, I got to do a PowerPoint presentation. We were doing stuff about like it was about crossover in culture in terms of pop culture from different countries. Like somebody had Bollywood, other people had like, you know, K dramas, things like that. Stuff that's really popular also in the US, but mostly just is like super originated from a different country, you know?
Yeah. And that definitely makes sense, since you mentioned that you went to school for filmmaking, that goodness knows, I went to school for marketing, and at every chance I had, anytime that you were allowed to choose your topic for a project, I always made it something nerdy, something that I'm personally passionate about, because that always makes a project more palatable. So it's super cool that you were able to do that for yours.
Yeah, and it was a group project, but the other person didn't put in his weight at all, so it was all me.
I am also familiar with that as well.
And yeah, my teacher knew too. He faked a dentist appointment for his presentation.
Oh, come on.
He messaged the teacher saying he had a dentist appointment. He told me he was sick. He gave two.
At least get your story straight.
And my teacher asked me about it. I was like, oh yeah, he's sick. And then she was like, oh, he told me he had a dentist appointment. And I was like,
you both have this moment of realization. Wait a minute.
It wasn't that. I also I was like, oh, I accidentally sold him out.
Well, hey, that's their own darn fault.
It's his fault. He should have kept his story straight.
Yeah.
He was not into it. It was fine. But you know how school is. You get I never want to go back to school.
I am very much in the same boat, that you know, I got my bachelor's degree, and there was a question of, do you want to get your MBA? And a combination of my opinion that for the areas that I want to do business in, I don't think an MBA is going to be impactful, combined with the just sheer desire to not go through more formalized education, made it a pretty simple decision for me.
Yeah, formalized education for somebody with ADHD like me is the worst.
So we got onto that whole tangent because you mentioned Sonic X, which is a 4Kids property, and like I said, one of the best things at 4Kids, regardless of what you think about their localization, they wrote banger intros. They knew how to write a theme song.
The One Piece theme.
The One Piece theme. The Pokemon theme. The Sonic X theme. Just everything they wrote was... You remember it to this day.
I think that's a controversial one. Like, I like it, but I know a lot of people don't.
I'm not saying they're necessarily good. I'm saying you remember them.
That's true. Yeah. And they never ever changed the Sonic X theme for like 3 seasons.
Nope.
Even after they went to space, they still kept the same intro.
Yep. But on the note of Sonic, in your wonderful autumn background, you have jack-o'-lanterns, you have a cozy fireplace, but you also have 2 guests over there on your bed.
Yeah, they're my roommates.
Yes.
My Omocha roommates. They're dressed up. They're dressed up as Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, and Chow...
I have a... Hang on. Behind me,
there's even more! Haha!
Yeah, I figurine.
Yes. Sonic is a series that is near and dear to your heart. The
Yeah.
Chow in particular, part of your subathon tomorrow is actually going to involve Sonic Adventure 2, which is my personal favorite Sonic game for many reasons, but that you're going to be doing a special Chow mod. And I have never heard of this Chow mod before. I love the Chow Garden. I have a couple stories about the Chow Garden, but what is this mod?
Let me quickly bring up the link because it was sent to me by my friend Ariadne a while ago, and I thought it would be a great fit.
Oh, I'm not sure. You might need to send it to me in Discord. I'm not sure if Twitch will stomp that link.
No, I'll send it to you in Discord. There you go. Game Banana mods. It's Chow World expansion. It's so cool looking. It's got, let's see, you can have accessories on your Chow, extra Chow types, and then like different new abilities and different ability balancing. It all looks so freaking cool.
So, how does this work then? I guess it has to be a virtual console that you're not gonna be able to play it off of.
I can play it on Steam.
Oh, that's right. I always forget that they released it on Steam.
Yeah, it's on Steam. That's how I play it. So before I got my model, my moving model, I played a lot of Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, because I was it was like the only game I ever played. I did like a 7-hour stream of it once. I love that game so much.
Oh yeah, and just the music. Speaking of game music, I think those absolutely held up. Don't get me wrong, the Knuckles raps are and have always been ridiculous.
I
but,
love them. I listen to them unironically. It's so good.
They are ridiculous, but they're catchy as heck. And I am a unironic Crush 40 fan. I love Crush 40.
Absolutely.
Escape from the City.
I miss them. I miss them so much.
They actually did a performance as part of the Sonic 30th anniversary concert that was streamed a couple months ago. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, it was like an hour and a half. It was a really long concert. The first hour or so was just pure orchestral, big symphony orchestra with the video in the background. But then the last segment was they actually had I always forget how to pronounce his last name. It's Jun Snow, I believe.
I don't remember his name.
That Crush 40, they performed. It was 4 or 5 songs, and they hit all of the classics. They hit Escape from the City. They did, Live and Learn, of course, and it was super, super fun. And the production was actually really good, especially considering that it was all pre-recorded and everything. So definitely recommend looking that up if you have the chance. And that was actually the first physical game soundtrack that I ever owned, and I listened to that thing nonstop. I remember going to the sound test area of the game and just sort of listening to every single song, memorizing them all, and
they hit so hard, and then they dropped it at Sonic Colors, and I know that's controversial, but I don't really like Sonic Colors because they made it like it was so poppy. I was like, oh, I miss my butt rock.
That I'm fine with having some poppy stuff in there. That Tails music sort of lent itself to that, and I think there's definitely a place for it in Sonic, but I feel like Sonic's personality is butt rock. You can't take that out.
I would say the most recent stuff I'm not really a big fan of. I like, obviously most people don't like Sonic Forces. I did not like Sonic Forces. I played it on
have not
stream.
played that
it
one.
was boring. And the music was so generic, and it was just like, basic like kid movie music, I would say, like orchestral, but like, I will say though, okay, Fist Bump is a good song. Oh wait, no,
look this one up now.
I just realized they had Fist Bump and Infinite's theme were both like really, really funny and good. I forgot about Infinite's theme, but the rest of the music kind of sucked.
Any favorite Chow stories of just particular ones that you raised or funny things that you've done? I will always remember the first time that my favorite Chow died, and just I was distraught.
I never played long enough for him to die.
Oh, I got to that point on one of them because I didn't know that they could die.
Yeah, they
I
reincarnate though if you treat them wrong.
if you got them, yeah, to a high enough thing, but for whatever reason, I guess I probably accidentally threw my favorite Chow just one too many times, and
No.
I didn't allow it to save that. I turned the console off, and then from then on, whenever I went into the Chow Garden, I only stayed in long enough to like be constantly playing with that one Chow, so we didn't have the opportunity to, go into the little gray cocoon.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was so sad. But the Chow
You don't wanna
Garden
leave
in
that shit
2
on
was
overnight.
amazing.
Yeah, like, I don't have any particular stories, but, I did get the Shadow Chow one time, and that was my favorite from back in the day. And I don't have it anymore, it was on the GameCube. So, and the thing is, so when we were playing it a couple months ago on stream, I was naming my chows after viewers through a redeem. So, most actually, all of them were named after my viewers. So, yeah, and it was fun. I think some of the best clips on my channel were from Chow Gardens.
So for the subathon tomorrow, are you just going to be, I guess, because you need to go into the main part of the game and play through the levels in order to get the little drives and the animals and everything to give to the Chow. So do you have a plan to just like play through the game and farm particular animals, or are you going to actually try and beat all 3 stories?
It depends on what the mod does. Maybe I might just. The thing is, I don't really want to replay the game, and I'm wondering.
Does the mod allow you to just spawn in animals and stuff?
I may be able to get a mod that allows me to do that on top of that. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that after this, I think.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm also going to play Deltarune, so that will be the first thing I do, I think.
Another game with very good music.
Yeah.
Toby Fox is just...
Yeah.
That guy can write a melody.
Yeah, I love Undertale music. I don't remember Deltarune Chapter 1 music so much, but I do want to play it because I'm very curious. But yeah.
Now, combining Sonic and writing, you mentioned that you have some Sonic OCs.
I do.
Are you comfortable describing some of them?
I have a video on my channel that already describes her, but I have an OC, Lily. Even my mom Bantos made a meme of her. I was so happy. But she's a Robotnik. Because I was really a big fan of that whole storyline in Sonic Adventure 2, like the extended family and everything.
Yeah, Maria.
Yeah. So she is the daughter of Robotnik, Eggman, and she is she's basically almost part machine at this point. She most of her body parts are just gone from a big accident as a kid, and she has. This is embarrassing, but I've already talked about it. So, she has a lesbian love interest who is a ghost who lives inside of her and is keeping her alive.
Now I was like, okay, lesbian love interest. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing unusual about that. With a ghost that's living inside her, okay, that's a bit more unique.
Yeah. So the ghost, it was. Hang on. Sorry, I thought somebody opened my door. She was kidnapped from a civilization that she was protecting, and she is basically the one thing keeping her alive and away from any complications that the machine may give her human part of her body. Mocha's ghost lesbian emotes. Mocha. But like, yeah, she's like a spirit, and so only Lily can talk to her, and like I have this big ending where they both die and like dance together.
Oh no, the tragic ending.
I'm very happy about that relationship, and I'm happy. I'm proud of what I came up with there, but it's never gonna go beyond the idea.
A few OCs do.
Yeah, maybe a bit of art too. Maybe one day.
Now, is she good, evil, or somewhere in between? Because you mentioned that she is the daughter of Robotnik and that she has this cybernetic body, but that's not necessarily indicative of evil? That was she
No,
raised by Robotnik and
she was.
has his nefarious ways, or did she rebel against her father and become a hero?
She's a bit of both. I do not see Eggman as a very evil character. I know it's weird.
I feel like he's a character who desperately wants to be evil,
Yeah.
but is not actually evil.
Yeah, I feel like he's especially in more recent media, he's very fumbly. Like he doesn't really exude evil, and oftentimes he ends up being someone who teams up with the heroes to defeat the big bad.
Yeah,
Especially
that usually
yeah,
happens. It
yeah.
happened in Sonic Adventure 2
Mhm.
and Heroes and several other ones that
Yeah.
he's he's the fake
Yeah.
villain, and then
He's a
just
MacGuffin a lot.
he's MacGuffin, and his bumbling gives rise to an actual threat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it, just as any good villain always
Mhm.
says, when another villain comes along, well, no, I'm going to rule the world. I'm not going to let you rule the world.
That
So I'm
happened
gonna
in
have to.
Sonic 06 as well.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, and like so because I view him in that way, I just cannot see Lily as like inheriting any sort of like malicious intent towards other people. She's very she's a recluse because she is very she's very depressed about her situation, and she's not really someone who takes out on other people, but is trying to find a purpose. And
Mm,
because she wants to figure out why she's still alive, like she wants to have some sort of justification for her being saved, and for her even she does not know that her lesbian lover is from the civilization that needs her to survive. And so she needs to eventually wrestle with the fact it's like, oh, it's my life or these people. And so she is neither good nor evil. She doesn't fight for good. She just kind of exists and tries to fight for herself, and doesn't really feel the need to protect other people, kind of like the main characters usually would in those games.
yeah.
Hmm. So
Did she?
she's just very human.
Hmm, did she build her own cybernetic parts, or did her father build them?
Her father did, yeah. So
Hmm,
Eggman saved her and rebuilt her.
okay, so
Mhm,
at least we do have Eggman here
mhm.
being. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, like, if there's much backstory, but he's not a inherently bad parent. That
No, not at
he
all.
cares enough to see to his daughter's
Mhm.
well-being in the best way
Yeah.
that he can.
I see him as more of distracted.
That
Distracted
fits.
by doing
That
other
fits.
things. But like, still like trying to provide. I don't know who her mother is. I have no fucking clue.
Not important.
That I've wrestled with that for so long. I don't know. I was thinking maybe she was a test tube baby to be like a successor, but then things happened, and he couldn't justify making her a successor anymore because of her injuries and everything, and the way that she needed to survive. So like he was just like, yeah, okay, I have to drop that idea. So
Mm.
yeah. So I'm thinking that like she was artificially, she was more of like a surrogate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So she was born on purpose,
Yeah.
but after her accident and everything happened, it just didn't seem right to keep her as a successor. So she just was demoted to daughter. So man, I could talk about her for hours.
It's like, now I'm getting really invested in this character. It's like, gosh, this is so cool. It's like that. Congratulations, you've written more compelling characters than the Sonic writers have in the past decade.
I'm telling you, they gotta hire me. They gotta fucking hire me. They gotta go in a new direction. I am sick of this new Sonic shit where he's just smack talking everybody in like the lamest fucking way possible.
It feels now. Sonic has always been a smack talking character,
Yeah,
even
but
back
he
in the
did a
80s.
did a better job back in the past.
Yeah, that's the thing. That just his style and his general MO has always been the same.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just because we're getting older that we think that he's getting less cool. But I feel
He
like his
talks too much.
creativity is getting a bit blander.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he talks so much now. Like back in the day, he would say one or two one-liners.
Yeah, and just
no, he wouldn't talk so much.
yeah, he
And
had
now
the
he just
quality over
rants.
quantity.
He just rants, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I love him, but like, and I I loved the cool factor as a kid, but like now he's just not cool. He's just annoying. And I love Roger Craig Smith. Craig Smith, his voice actor currently, is such a huge sweetheart. Like he loves this role.
Yeah, because he lost the role for a short time, but then got it back, and it was a huge thing in that community that I'm not super actively involved, but the fact that the news got to me as someone who isn't actively involved in that community shows just how big it was.
Yeah, and he got it back, and he was just like, my heart is whole and everything. I was like, don't make me cry, man. And his Twitter, he's a bird watcher. He tweets about birds, and I love this man so much. I just don't like his voice as Sonic that much.
Aw.
Because he talks, it's not his fault. It's the scriptwriters.
That he's not being given good material to work with.
He's given awful material. And that's why I grew up with Jason Griffith, who was the Sonic X voice actor and you know, different Sonic games for a lot of years up until like 2010, I think. And like it's interesting because a lot of people don't like him, but I like him. So I just think it fits well because and back then he didn't speak as much, and like during Sonic X he didn't even speak that much, and I still loved him. And like now he's just like he's so annoying. Like there's a scene in Sonic Forces where he just does not stop fucking taunting the villain Infinite, and like it's really irritating. And I'm just like, shut the hell up. So, all right, that's my TED Talk about.
Don't worry about it. That honestly, one thing I try to get out of each of my guests, I want to get my guests to rant about something they're passionate about at least once, and I've already gotten that, and I know we have a couple more things that I'm pretty sure I can get you to rant about that. Like, I'm having a great time. I hope you are too so far.
I am.
What are your thoughts on Shadow?
Oh, he's my favorite character, for sure.
Yay!
Yeah.
Shadow's...
I hate his new voice.
Oh no!
I think, no, it got better over time. But Sonic Boom and also the Sonic Boom TV series Shadow was kind of shit compared to Jason Griffith's rendition of him. But I fucking love Shadow. It was my favorite fucking character. When I do ASMR, I have an ASMR mic on screen, and I use his little symbol on the ASMR mic because I love him.
I must have missed that. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Shadow, and I miss good Shadow content.
Yeah, I wanted to like Shadow the Hedgehog, the game.
I did too.
I think everyone did. And it is a fascinating piece of history in the Sonic just continuum. And if you look at the history of Sonic game releases, it is a unique release to say the least.
They need to re-release it and fix all the issues, and I'll love it.
Yeah, just I appreciated the diverging stories, like the way that they had those branching paths and the options. That was good. This was not a entirely bad game.
No, not by any means. The controls were the worst part.
Yeah, the controls were slippery. The camera angles were not always controlled.
Yeah.
But the story was interesting. The writing, I'm not going to call it inspired, certainly, but we've seen worse, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked the more serious tone. I've always liked the more serious Sonic tone. I know he's a hedgehog. I know he's a blue hedgehog. I know it's goofy as fuck. But I like the serious tone of Sonic.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
And Shadow asked a lot of really interesting questions of just this character who doesn't entirely know their past and is trying to really grapple with the literal who am I, and figuring out what they want after being just somebody who is and was manipulated very much for most of their lives, or at least as much of it as they can remember. So that, just from a character and narrative perspective, is really cool writing space to be working with. And I don't think anyone has ever played Sonic for the writing, so I'll take what I can get. And I think that was good, even if some of the pieces around it were not even incomplete, but just unpolished, I'd say.
Yeah, and I feel like it's such a big, weird issue. I love the idea of the branching paths, but it didn't make sense after the long run, because then we get the true ending. We don't know we don't know how we got to the true ending, because it's not clear.
which
It's not clear what
branch
happens
leads
to get
to the
there.
true ending, that there's
Yeah, it's
some
not
sort
clear.
of a slightly awkward leap that we're missing between the end of the main story and then the start of the final chapter.
Not to mention, like, the endings reveal different truths that are contradictory, so you don't quite understand.
Yeah, it's almost different timelines.
Yeah, and it's almost different realities too, because some things like are details that have happened in the past that get revealed, like for example, Shadow being an android, and like, but sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. So that's very weird, and it just needs to be polished. And I did see a lot of behind the scenes explanations of why this happened, and it makes sense because a lot of people dropped off the project. Yuji Naka went to go work on Sonic 06 instead, like, and obviously we know that.
At the very least, Shadow the Hedgehog is better than Sonic 06.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, Sonic 06 was a mess. I loved it as a kid because I was a dumb kid and I thought I was bad at video games. Like, I would die and I'm just like, oh, I suck at video games. And I play as an adult and I die and I'm like, this game fucking sucks.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I tried playing it when I was like 16 and that was like, oh, God, that was so long ago now. But like compared to like when I was 12 and I played it, good lord. God, it was so bad. I've only played
bits and pieces of it that I remember. I played a level or two of it at a friend's house, and that was enough for me to know that I didn't want to buy it myself. So I never played the entire game. I saw enough.
Yeah, I think so. One of the reasons I loved it so much is because when I was 11 years old, my parents took me to a really nice play place to go to while they gambled at a casino. So while the parents were all gambling, they had like a really big play place for the kids to hang out for like a couple hours. And not only did it have like the big McDonald's play place thing, but it was like really, kind of clean and high tech and cool. They had a bunch of Xboxes and PS3s. So like they had like a bunch of demo games, and that's where I saw Sonic 06 for the first time, because they had 2 levels. And as a kid, I had a big thing. I was a big fan of rescue stories, and I wanted to be the princess. So they had the level where you're going through the woods, you're holding Elise, and I was like, oh, I want to be like her. I want to be rescued by Sonic. I want to buy this game so I can have that fantasy. And I did. And like, that's why I loved it so much as a kid, because I was dumb and I had this weird, I guess, kink.
It wasn't that you were like, oh, I want to be rescued by Sonic. It was, I want to be rescued, and Sonic just happens to be the one rescuing, and he's all right too.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And like, even to this day, I like to write stories like that because I just find it kind of fun, and like it kind of tugs an emotional kink for me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's sort of it's a caring thing. It's I want someone who cares about me to go through those types of trials and tribulations, and that's not weird at all in my opinion.
If you bring it out like that, it actually makes a lot more sense, and it kind of unpacks a lot for me.
You're welcome? Question mark?
Maybe we shouldn't go into that. But yeah, no, I do like those kinds of stories, and like I think that was a big draw for me to buy the game.
And we've never heard from Elise again.
No, good thing too. She was bland as fuck. I hated her. And though I did like Silver, I thought Silver was a good character, because like I said, if you give characters in Sonic depth, it's good, and they don't do that anymore. Now they're all just the same character with the same personality but a different skin, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, I guess Sonic's personality rubbed off on them a bit too much. That that they are all. Knuckles used to be a villain. Literally a villain.
I loved Knuckles so much, and like he was a character who was very not selfish, but knew what he had to do.
Yeah, no, if anything, he was selfless, but that he would allow what he felt his duty was to blind him.
Yes, Absolutely. And he was and he he was a little bit like easy to manipulate because of that, but that just made him a good character because he had flaws. And like now, and like I think back to Sonic Forces, and there's like, oh, it's just so bland. Like they just, yes,
They
he
turned
was
him into a
bamboozled.
meathead.
They turned him into a meathead in Sonic Boom, but in the regular Sonic series, they just took away his personality entirely. He's just Sonic's friend now. That's it. He serves the exact same function as Tails at this point. Just with his fists and not his tinkering. It's like it's annoying, and I just think that they've just really dropped the ball on making Sonic interesting nowadays. And that's why I think that fan fiction is a good place to go if you're,
Yeah,
if you miss
they've given you interesting pieces to work with,
Yeah.
and they aren't using them to the fullest extent.
Yeah,
So
they
I
stopped
will thank you
working
very
entirely.
much.
I will do it. It's my job now.
Yeah. Just Thanos, fine, I'll do it myself.
Exactly. Oh god, I want to make that a TikTok.
Did you get to see the live action movie?
I did. I liked it.
Yeah, I actually thought I think it's one of the best
Mhm.
video game live action adaptations we've had. Not gonna call it perfect, but it was fun and felt like it knew what it wanted to be and
Yeah,
was
it's
that.
safe. It's also very safe.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say it's very safe, and the reason for that is because they did the thing that Sonic X did, like they put Sonic in the human world, and they that's about it. And he's not. I do like the fact that they made an origin story for Eggman, though. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and Jim Carrey just
Yeah.
love
Very, very
that
good
guy.
choice.
Just yeah, it's the type of thing that you look at it and part of me just says, well, this is Jim Carrey playing half the roles he's ever been hired to play.
Yeah.
And this time it
But
just happens to have the name Robotnik. But that's because Jim Carrey is so darn good at that role.
Yeah, but also I do think that he fits that character kind of well because, like I said, I don't think Robotnik is a very menacing villain.
No.
And I think that Jim Carrey was a good pick because his roles are very eccentric, and also he swung it a bit so that he was a bit of a villain. But like I said, I don't think Eggman's a very consistent. He's not always the bad guy, and I just think that lends itself true to any of Jim Carrey's characters sometimes, like the Mask. Like I'm thinking like it's just how eccentric he was,
Mhm.
and he was still like doing bad things and things like that. And I feel like that's very Eggman, at least modern day Eggman, especially in the Sonic Boom cartoon. I feel like Eggman is very much not a villain in that show, and I think that Jim Carrey would be a good fit for that too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was obviously one of the big selling points that he was the name and the face that everybody recognized as soon as the trailer came out. And it was fun seeing him just sort of have a ball on screen. You could tell that he was enjoying the role. The dialogue in that film, once again, not inspired, but it was a consistently written film that it was fine. There was nothing awful about it. And it's one that, if you're looking for a movie to watch with your younger cousins or something, that's a great movie to put on. And I'm looking forward to the sequel. Did you hear who they got to play Knuckles?
Yes. Oh god. Okay. The Sonic movie is my last fucking hope for them to do Knuckles justice. The fact that they hired Idris Elba makes me so fucking excited because his characters are pretty in-depth a lot of the time. I'm fucking hoping. I'm just praying to God that they don't dumb Knuckles down and they make him a villain again. Please.
Seriously, that when I saw that announcement, at first I thought it was fake. I thought that someone had just, done an image manipulation and tweeted it out because, the idea wasn't outlandish, but it was just like, there's no way they'd actually get Idris Elba to do it. And then I went on Twitter and was like, oh my gosh, it's actually Idris Elba. This is amazing.
It's nice because Knuckles is a very he's a very I don't want to say indigenous inspired character, but definitely like kind of a PSC coded kind of character. And I feel like it was such a good pick. It was such a good pick. I was so
Yes.
excited.
Yes.
And not only that, but they got just such a good actor for it. And I just think that like it just gives me hope that they're finally going to give Knuckles the depth that he deserves.
Mm-hmm.
That he's been missing for all these years in the games and in the cartoon and everything. I'm just super excited for that pick, and I just hope that like I said, I just want them to give him the depth that he deserves, and I want good moments, and I want the good moments where they're just like, oh, you fucking knucklehead, god damn it, you got tricked again, some shit like that. I'm just excited.
I don't remember if I read it or if it was me talking with a friend, but my guess / hope for the film is that whatever it is, like you said, that Eggman tricks Knuckles into cooperating with him, and that you basically have the classic Sonic and Knuckles origin of he's not a bad guy, but to use Wildian in the chat's phrasing, bamboozle him, and that by the end Knuckles realizes which way is up, teams up with Sonic, beats Eggman, and there you go.
Yeah. I like that. They did an episode like that in Sonic X too. So like they reuse it sometimes, but I am okay with it. So
yeah,
at least it will be a movie format.
That's the closest thing.
A new format.
Yeah, it's the closest thing he has to a standard established origin story that Spider-Man has Uncle Ben, and there's been various iterations on it, and Knuckles is just, it starts with him butting heads with Sonic, and by the end, they're working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The origin story is, I think, kind of important, so.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to that whenever it happens. And
then when Sonic 3 comes out, they're going to do Shadow, I bet.
Shadow.
Please, okay. Just make Sonic Adventure 2 the movie, please.
Oh my god.
I would, because it takes place in the human world, so it would be totally okay.
What I would give to see what they could do today with CG and the Space Colony arc.
So cool.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
It would be so cool. I'm super excited. I hope they do it. I hope they do.
Pockeii, Sega has hired you and I to cast Shadow. Who are we casting?
Can we just recast Jason Griffith? I don't care if he's not a film actor. Wait,
The studio says it can't be Jason Griffith. It has to be a established Hollywood actor because we need it to sell tickets. So we have to think of somebody new to cast. And to be fair, I don't have an answer prep for this either. I just thought of the question right now.
Fuck. Benedict Cumberbatch?
Oh, okay. Okay, I can get on board with this.
What if?
Because obviously Shadow doesn't have a British accent, but Cumberbatch has done
he doesn't
accentless.
Do it half the time.
Yeah, he's done accentless characters. He has that lower register. He's been able to do the more menacing, brooding type thing. Okay, I'm on board with this.
I was like, who does like a deep voice? Who's done like voice acting before? Who's like, and like the first thing that came up to him, it was like Benny C, and I was like, oh, he did Smaug, so it could.
Yeah, he did work. Smaug. He was in. I forget, it was one of the Madagascar movies, or maybe it was Penguins in Madagascar.
He did a lot of voice work. He did he did a few new movies, I thought, too. I don't remember what they were.
Yeah, that he definitely has the clout, and obviously being Doctor Strange and everything, that he is a recognizable face. So that fits what the studio asked of us, that they wanted somebody like Idris Elba to help sell the tickets, because I feel like they're going to have that as a thing, that Jim Carrey was the draw for the first one. Idris Elba is going to be the draw this time, and if hopefully they do another one, I feel like Shadow's going to be the logical focus of the third movie, and I feel like it has to be another Hollywood name that just
they gotta bring him back. Yeah, they gotta do him justice.
And Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, fits that bill really well. So well done. The studio has given us both massive bonuses. It'll be in our bank accounts tomorrow.
Thank God. I need that money. Well, they'll contribute it to my subathon.
There you go.
So I can stream for longer.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. I didn't even think about that until now.
Honestly, I hadn't either. It was just, things come up and it was like, ooh.
Mhm.
And half of it was
Yeah.
honestly, like I said, that I didn't have an idea. So well done, because you thought of that very quickly. I was still sort of scrambling around for names myself.
I can't think of many actors.
But you thought
I
of a
I
good one,
got
and
lucky.
that's what
I got
matters.
lucky that the one I think about sometimes was a good fit,
Mhm.
hopefully. But yeah. I mean, he's not perfect, but he would be a good fit for Hollywood at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, one area that we discussed yesterday, which again I didn't know you were super into, but that actually is a big area of expertise for you, is ARGs, alternate
Yeah.
reality games.
I
Um,
don't ever talk about this on stream, so this is a good topic.
yeah, so I guess starting from the top, how did you get into ARGs? Do you remember what your first ARG was, or what really sent you down that rabbit hole of it as an
Mhm.
interest?
Well, first of all, I used to follow a lot of YouTube channels that would actually focus on these things and explain them.
Mm,
Rainbot, for example, comes to mind. She still does content, I think, mostly just spooky related content. Because a lot of ARGs were horror related, and I really liked that. And because I was alone. I had my single dorm in college, and like I would watch a lot of stuff on my own, and I wouldn't really have a roommate to appease or anything, so I would just lay in bed and just watch these videos. And I think my first one was probably the sun vanished, which was a Twitter thing. That was like a story where the sun vanished, and it was like a Twitter thread of somebody experiencing that, and making videos and stuff. And I got to meet the creator of that when I did my thesis on it, so that was really fun.
so you said you did a thesis on it. So do
Yeah,
you have a doctorate?
no, it was my
Darn.
senior thesis.
Because if you were a
A
doctorate,
doctor,
then it would be Doc Pock.
Doug Puck. One day I'll play a surgeon related game and you can call me Doc Puck.
There we go.
But no, Doc Puck. Mocha loved it. But yeah, so I got to meet him because I literally was like doing interviews. I like flew over to see these people, and like so like Central America, and and yeah. So and then another one was a Petscop was a big one on YouTube. It was like a Let's Play series following the basically this guy was like doing a Let's Play series of a game that he found or was sent to him, and it wasn't like a release game, and like it had ended up being a really long series that was pretty spooky and explored his past, and it wasn't a real video game by any means, and it was edited as if he was playing the game and talking over it like a commentary, and it was really interesting and super cool, and I freaking adored it.
Yeah. So
And
in this case,
yeah.
it's not a game that they are playing, but that they presented their narrative
Mhm.
through the lens of a game being played, which
Yes,
is
exactly.
a it's
I
a bit
recommend it.
roundabout when you say it out loud,
Yeah.
but it it makes sense, and that's a really interesting choice. That's not
Yeah.
usually what I think of when I think of ARGs, but it still fits that bill.
Yeah, when people think of ARGs, they tend to think of like the Batman ARG that came out when the new movie, or when the one with Heath Ledger came out, I think.
I don't actually
Um,
remember that one.
oh, they did like a big ARG thing where they had like a Joker was recruiting people or something, and like you had to do a bunch of stuff. They had like phones and cakes and shit, and like you go get a cake at like a place. I don't remember what city they did it in. Might have been New York.
It's probably
Um,
New York, because that's
yeah.
what they always have as sort of the basis of Gotham.
Yeah, and they had everyone meet up in a park and stuff, and it was pretty cool. And so that's typically what people think of when they think of like ARGs. Also, Black Watchman is another ARG, because like that's a video game that you can play, but it presents itself as you're like being a real secret agent and stuff. And
Yeah,
sometimes
I've
you
heard
can
of
get
that
like
one.
yeah, you can get like real world texts, and you can go to real world places sometimes. So, but I don't limit it to just things that you can interact with. I expanded to things that are like just general storytelling, in my opinion. I think that blurring the line between reality and fiction is what makes an ARG.
And in the case of that other series, that since even though the consumer of the media is not interacting with it, the fact that the plot and the protagonist there is having that line blurred, it still qualifies.
Absolutely. And that doesn't make it a game, but you can say alternate reality storytelling as well. But I think ARG is a good blanket term because everyone kind of knows that term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to basically say I'm into ARGs rather than saying like I'm into augmented reality storytelling.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite ARG for just yourself and one that you have really enjoyed as a consumer of that media, whether it be active in a game or passive in just a media?
Probably Petscop, like I mentioned. I think that one's probably my favorite. A lot of Twitter ones are pretty good. I think that there was an issue where there was a bit of an oversaturation of it when it got really popular, right? And then everyone wanted to be the next big one.
Of course.
And it was a big issue because anyone could do it, but also like it was a good thing that anyone could do it, but also a bad thing that anyone could do it.
Yeah, because then it's literally cluttering your Twitter feed.
Yeah, and not only that, but like there's in the subreddit, the ARG subreddit, there was an issue where like instead of sharing new ARGs, people were like, oh, I want to make an ARG, and like trying to recruit people for that and things like that, or like check out my ARG, like it wasn't organic like typical ARGs were. So a big part of my my thesis was whether or not it was oversaturated and what people could do to stand out. And I think that also has a lot to do with VTubing, because like I think a lot of people think that there's too many VTubers. and I think that looking at through a lens of yes, maybe there's too many VTubers, but there's a lot of really, really talented people out there who are using VTubing as an outlet, and there's nothing wrong with that either. And I think that if you do it right, you can do it really, really well,
Yeah, and it's not a zero-sum game here that only a certain number of VTubers can exist or be successful at one time. It's just that, all right, as there are more and more, you do need to do more and more to stand out. But it's not that there is a limit to what is sustainable necessarily. It's just it becomes more difficult to reach the threshold of sustainability as an individual, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, so when I think of my favorite ARGs, I'm thinking of Petscop. I'm thinking of the Sun Vanished, who I got to meet the creator of. There was one called Pizza Time Pizza, which was more of a series. But I did kind of think of it as an ARG because it did have a lot of elements that interacted with the audience. And yeah, I think those are the best ones in my opinion. The Twitter ones are interesting. There was one, the Dear David one, that was made by a journalist who was documenting a ghost in his house. That was interesting. I think it ended weird, but like it was one of the first major Twitter ARGs, I think. And then there was another one where somebody was documenting their time living in like their late father's home. It ended up being like a really screwy town that like sacrificed babies and shit, and like it was just like a lot of really cool stories being told through that medium. And I feel like I'm more attracted to the stories sometimes than I am about the storytelling elements. But like I still love it.
Yeah. So you said the focus of the thesis was what people could do to make their ARGs stand out in a area that was becoming more and more saturated. What were the findings? What was your analysis of these different, I don't know if it was steps or just features or qualities of a successful ARG?
That wasn't really, so it ended up not being, that was kind of what I was going for, but then that ended up not being the point. So the point ended up being like, just write about what you're passionate about, Just like an everyday writing. Like if it's not unique to you, then it's harder to make it stand out, So
do you feel that helped tailor your approach to VTubing, because you drew the parallel of there being a lot of ARGs and there being a lot of VTubers as both became popular in their respective times. Do you feel that you drew on your writing and your thesis a bit in the development of your own content?
I wish I could say that was entirely accurate, but I do think that some elements, yes, because I put a lot of myself into my VTubing. I don't play a character as much as some other people do, and I'm sure that's very common for a lot of VTubers. Many people just want to VTube because they want to use the avatar, they want to feel safer, they want to have a better aesthetic, they want to feel like they have a consistent theme in their streams. They want to make it visually pleasing. I did it. I did it for similar reasons. And like I said, when I started, I did not really think that I was gonna get this far. And when I got my model, it was mostly for personal purposes. Like I was like, I'm not gonna get very far, but I might as well have a nice model. And and nowadays I mostly draw on, because like I could just stream and just be myself, but I want to try new things, and I think that's something that makes me a bit unique, in that even if I'm not good at something, I will still do it on stream. Like for example, I'll sing, I'll draw, and yeah, that's basically my thing. Like I like to think that I'm the person who tries.
Well, I think you might be
And
underselling yourself a bit there, because you said that one of your big conclusions in the thesis was that people should write about what they're passionate about, and that in your case, you're channeling your energy and passion into your content creation, that it is more than just you being yourself, that you are pushing yourself in new different directions, but doing so in a manner that is natural to you, that you're actively saying, okay, I want to try new things and I want to see these other things that I can do, even if I'm not necessarily good at them, which isn't forcing a character. And for some people, the reason that some people are able to play characters as VTubers so well is because for them, playing a character is a passion.
yeah.
So that, obviously there is no wrong way to be a content creator. There's no wrong way to be a VTuber, but
Yeah.
I think that your finding with the ARGs still applies to VTubers as a whole, and frankly, content creation as a whole, of just people always perform best when they are doing things that they are passionate about. And this is honestly part of what I try to do with this show that I mentioned to you, that I always tailor my shows not to be a standardized list of questions, that I go out of my way to figure out, okay, what is it that my guest is passionate about? Because the conversations are always going to be much more engaging and fluid and energetic if it's something that the guest is passionate about versus the cookie cutter ones. And some people do cookie cutter really well. I don't think I could, and that's why I have my format.
Yeah, and I must say, you do a good job. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that
right.
your findings with your thesis, even if it's not necessarily a one-to-one application here, I think that you might be embodying your findings more than you realize.
Yeah, I mean, the way you put it like that, I do think you have a point. Like the thing is, I'm the kind of person who like will kind of stumble into things and end up finding meaning somewhere along the lines, like my interviews, like I went in with something and then I came up with something else,
Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas of what your next different self-challenges might be? That you mentioned, all right, you like to do singing, even if it's not something that you're necessarily super confident in. Are there any areas that you haven't gotten to yet that you're sort of eyeing for the future of, okay, this might be the next thing I do to try my hand at?
Yeah, that's a good question, because because I was thinking also, like I was doing cooking streams sometimes, like one of my stretch goals is to do takoyaki stream, because I would the only way I would do that is if I was funded with one of those takoyaki maker machines. And so but before that, I did my cupcake decoration stream, which I was still mediocre at. And honestly, I don't think that stream went very well, because I was kind of disappointed with myself, because I used to work in a bakery and I thought I had a lot more skill than I did. and it ended up just being lack of knowledge of, I should have made the frosting colder. Like, because it melted too much.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it was hard to do, and I was using my laptop, and the laptop sucks.
Yeah, and
So
obviously, having to reach over around and
yeah,
just, only hands showing and
it was my
having
first
to
IRL
maneuver.
stream with my hands.
Yeah.
It was a
And that's always
lot.
going to be so much harder than just
Mhm.
baking on your own because you're working in a enclosed field of vision and all
Yeah.
right, I need to keep my emotions and everything contained to this field of vision on top of everything else of making sure that I'm doing things in the right steps, in the right amounts,
Yes,
prepping with the right
absolutely.
time. That it's
Yeah.
probably the most difficult form of baking.
It was so hard because I had to do a lot of cleaning, and obviously that was all off camera.
Mm.
So they would just hear psst from the water and everything. And I would just be like, "Give me a sec."
I'm
I
still
was
here,
really
everyone. Don't
I
worry
was
about it.
so disappointed in myself about that. But then I did the Dongo stream, which I set up. Instead of using my laptop, I put a table in my streaming room, and then I put all my stuff there. It went so much better, and I was so much happier with it. Even though the Dongo turned out terrible, I was so happy with the stream. So
Mm.
like, and another thing, so if I do the takoyaki stream, maybe even I could just try the cupcake stream one more time because I still have stuff left over from it. And I just need to get new frosting and new cupcakes.
Yeah, or
Um,
so you were actively making the frosting and all of these other elements on stream. It wasn't the way I sort of refer to it is the Emerald Lagasse style, where you have all the components pre-prepared and you pull out the components and you combine them on
yeah,
screen, but all the prep work is done ahead of time. But you were doing the prep work on the stream.
I was doing the frosting prep work on stream, but I
Mm.
had already made the cupcakes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were sticky. Everything was so sticky. It was so hard. But yeah. So yeah, I would like to do more of that. I'd like to get better at it. And so basically making things I think is another thing I really want to get good at. So I want to do more of that in the future. I recently got a comment about my singing from a regular, and it wasn't that fun. So I'm still trying to overcome that. Yeah, I don't know. But cuz like I have a weak voice. Like I strain my voice by going up like 2 octaves when I'm streaming. And I can't stop myself from doing that for some reason. I can't go back down. I don't know why, but and so I get really self-conscious about my singing. I've been doing it less, but I want to overcome that, and I want to basically just say, no, I'm still gonna sing anyway. Fuck it, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And hey, sometimes it's finding the right song for your voice that certain styles or just certain keys aren't going to be naturally as easy regardless of your skill level. So
Absolutely, yeah.
sometimes it's just finding what is more natural to your voice. And since your streaming voice is not the same as your natural voice, it
Hmm.
makes sense that you might not naturally be able to think of songs that are a fit for that voice because it's not the
Yeah.
voice that you normally use.
I have no clue what my voice is at any given time. I used to hate it. I used to think it was like the worst voice in the entire world. And then I started streaming and I'm like, yeah, it's not that bad. So I'm still just trying to so I've just grasped that it's not that bad. So now I need to learn how to use it properly.
Well, I feel like at the very least that means that you're halfway there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Mm. Do
And
you
I
have
do
any?
have a speech impediment, so it's just kind of rough. My grandma can't understand me half the time, so
Oh, I think you've been doing just fine today.
yeah, I mean, it's not like stuttering or anything. I have a speech impediment with pronunciation a lot of the time, and I think that's also my ADHD, because like sometimes I think too fast, and my mouth can't keep up. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Still, I think you're doing quite well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Dang it, I had the next question in my mind and then it popped right out of my head. Oh, yes. Do you have any favorite songs to sing, regardless of how well you think you sing them? Are there any songs that you just love singing?
I listen to a lot of top 40 on the radio in the car, and I will belt out very specifically "Stay" from the Kid Lawyer, the Roy or whatever, and Justin Bieber, which I think is a fucking fantastic song. And some Maroon 5 songs. Some of the more recent songs suck, but I do like the one. It's just like "Beautiful Mistakes," and a bunch of stuff. A lot of top 40 stuff. I keep forgetting. Oh, fuck. I can't stop singing. I can't stop singing "Call Me by Your Name," even though it's so modern and stupid. I was like, that song fucking slaps. But I used to also be a big Vocaloids fan, so I would belt out Vocaloid a lot, and back in the day too.
Was Vocaloid possibly your gateway into VTubing? Because I know that for a good portion of people, that was sort of the first degree of separation that led them into all this.
It could have been, but I feel like it was more HoloLive. Like, I was a big fan of, I still am a huge fan of Sakura Miko.
Miko, yep.
Yeah.
I saw you tweet, it was just the other day, 2 stands of Miko and...
it was today, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and the other one was your...
It's my big brother, Gomo.
Yeah, Gomo, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. He sent me stickers. and they went on a double date. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Miko. I auditioned for HoloLive, EN. Obviously, I didn't get in, but that was a few months ago, so I wasn't quite sure what I was doing at the time. And I would say, and hopefully after this subathon, I'll have some good content to show to the shoujo, hopefully. But I was like, I think actually my first interaction with HoloLive wasn't even Miko, it was Subaru. Because I saw a video of her reacting to a letter from a fan talking about how that fan's brother was a VTuber pretending to be a woman. So, which opens up a whole can of worms. So,
Indeed.
But yeah, so that was my start because I really liked Subaru, and then it went over to Miko, and then I watched her GTA 5 stuff, and then I just really wanted to be in that. Sorry, I thought something was vibrating. But yeah.
No,
so
sorry.
That
was my phone. That I have some notes on my phone that I was looking at, so you probably heard it vibrating. That's me.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. And so yeah, HoloLive was a big intro, and I was originally going to stream on YouTube because of it, and I really only wanted to stream because I wanted experience that I could audition for HoloLive, and I did that, and obviously I didn't get in, which I'm not really too peeved about because I ended up doing all this stuff and I feel good about it. So yeah,
and I'm guessing it's not intentional, but I find it sort of fitting that of all the people in HoloLive that you gravitated to, that it was Miko who is somewhat your inverse, that you are the essence of autumn and she is the essence of spring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She's very, very. Oh gosh, she's so fucking pretty. Yeah. I don't know what it is about the cute factor mixed with the raunchy factor. I fucking adore her.
And of course, she has many a famous clip that you mentioned GTA 5, and I think that's all we need to say.
Yeah. It's funny because that clip that you're thinking of wasn't even the first thing I saw. So it was like her punching, and she's it's like just like punching people and going off ramps and shit and just being chaotic.
Yeah, that particular clip was I think the second or third of hers that I saw. The first one I saw of her was when she was sniping people from rooftops saying stay at home.
That's the one I'm thinking of. That's the chaotic energy I was thinking of. Because that was the COVID response, right?
It was like, hey, no, we're in lockdown. Go home.
I fucking adore that. Because it's so timely too.
Yes, Devastation. I'm probably butchering your name. I'm sorry, but thank you for the follow.
Hola.
Do you have any favorite pieces of Hololive content, regardless of if it's from Miko in particular or any of the other talents?
Miko did a rap one time to the beat of a horror game, and it was fucking awesome.
I've somehow missed this one. I'll have to look it up.
Just like a Miko rap, it's like one of the first things. But
Mm-hmm.
she does a lot. She improvises sometimes. Like obviously she did the "We Will Fuck You" thing with the Queen song,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and she's just she's just so good at like improvising, just good content.
Yeah.
and like and also obviously her elite English is so fucking funny.
Yes.
And like
Elite.
and
Super elite.
that led me into Coco too. Coco is she was so fantastic. She's still doing stuff now, obviously. I'm not gonna dox her.
Of
her
course.
stream. She's not hard to find.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But
That
yeah, she's still
she's there.
streaming.
If you want to find her, you can find her, and
Absolutely.
she is doing well. And I'm very happy that she has just continued to make content. And I actually hosted. I'm not sure if you knew. It was a special episode I called the Coco Appreciation Show, which aired. It was the day before her graduation. I had several of my past guests on, a couple guests who I hadn't had before, to basically come on for about 15 minutes at a time and talk about their memories of Coco and just sort of, like as the title suggests, Coco Appreciation Show. And it's the type of thing that obviously it was sad to see her go from Hololive, but I was very happy that it was very obviously her choice and that Hololive, they couldn't have given her a better send-off. They gave her a month of just pomp and circumstance, front and center, reissuing merch. It was clear that this was not them forcing them out, that if it was bad circumstances, she could have been gone in under a week with a single goodbye stream, and it would have been, tried to be brushed under the rug. That they gave her full appreciation. They had, original song releases. They had full front center promotion for her and treated her right. And that really, above all for me, was what made it feel good to me, because it was clear that it was her choice.
Cover Corp slander. Fuck all of you. Slander Cover Corp. They did her right.
Yeah. And I'm glad that she's continuing to make content and that she is happy. And it's, you hear the talents occasionally mentioned on stream that, it's not like she's gone into exile or anything, that Kanata still lives with her and that they still talk and that they're still friends. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. And she was a big inspiration for me to want to join Hololive, because I thought, like, if this person who is originally from the US can learn Japanese and then go work for a Japanese company and be like such a big pioneer for Hololive and all the EN VTubers, then like I just was really inspired by her, and I really, really enjoyed her content. She was so funny, and she is so funny, and like she's just very inventive too, and she's got great rapport with people as well.
Yeah, whenever somebody does a thesis on the history of VTubers, Coco, well, obviously Hololive as a whole is going to represent a large portion of just, significant history and expansion, but Coco in particular as an individual, I think is up there in the, if you consider space-time continuum of just rippling impact, I hold her up there with Sora and with Kizune of just the individual impact that she has had on the entire industry.
I can't believe you just mentioned Kizune, and I forgot I was a fan of Kizune. I forgot. I have a pillow of her. What the fuck? I completely forgot. She was my introduction to VTubing. I'm stupid.
To be fair, she was most people's introduction to VTubing, having been the first to actually do it.
So when I studied in Japan for 4 months in 2018, and I was such a huge fan of her, and I just missed her like first like meetup with actual people, And like
Ah,
I just fucking missed it. And I was so upset. So I went to like Akihabara and stuff, and I like I bought a bunch of her merch and everything. It was fucking overpriced as fuck, but I was cool with it. And I bought some of her stuff and I fucking adored her. I was like, she's so funny, she's so spunky, she swears, she's cool, she's gay. I thought she was so cool. And like unfortunately with all the stuff that happened, like she just kind of fell into a bit of obscurity, but she's still an idol, which is good. But no, Hololive really just like took the spotlight from her from my perspective. Like unfortunately I still love her, but
yeah, well, it's always easier to have the spotlight when you have a full roster of
Mhm.
people that
Oh yeah.
I don't think that any single individual could just
Mhm.
on their own necessarily be able to match just the reach of a group as big as Hololive or Nijisanji or Vishojo, just sheer numbers. But
Yeah.
uh, Kizune still was that pioneer, and
Yeah.
that nobody will ever be able to take that away from her in terms of just historical
Absolutely.
significance. And obviously, she may not be at the heights that she once was, but
Mhm.
this doesn't all exist, at least not right now, without her. It's similar to my theory with 4Kids that, yes, the anime industry could have eventually wound up where it is today. Yes, VTubing could have wound up where it is, but it would not be as far as it is right now had it not been for Kizune AI.
Absolutely. And I still have that pillow of her in my bed. I still love her. So
Yay.
I have her next to my Joker pillow from Persona 5.
There we go. It all comes back to P5.
Yeah, let's not talk about it though. I said on stream I can't talk about it. I will regress into a worse creature than I was originally.
Because we have already been at this for over 2 hours. That I know you have the uncapped subathon tomorrow, so I don't want to
Yeah.
keep you too late. I want to make sure that you
Sure.
get a good night's rest, that you're gonna be, fresh and energetic. What time does that start tomorrow?
11 a.m. EST.
Okay, yeah, and it is it's a bit after 10 p.m.
Yeah.
PST, so I have just a couple final questions, but then I do want to let you go so you can get some good rest.
Sure.
First off, do you have any goals for the remainder of 2021? That we're entering the last quarter of the year, so there's still a good chunk of time. Is there anything, obviously you have the subathon tomorrow, but do you have any particular goals that you want to be able to say, all right, I did this, or at the very least, I did my best to try and do this before the end of the year?
Yeah, I had an interview a while ago, and that goal was to the same question was asked, and I thought an average of 55 viewers seemed kind of attainable. Obviously, Twitch partner is a really big one because I'm fucking sick of Twitch taking my money. I'm sure everyone is.
Yeah.
Because we work really hard, and it's 50% is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that my number of subs doesn't matter to me as long as I'm getting that money. And and so partner's a big one. There are people in my mental list of people I really want to collab with. I'm shy, so and I'm terrified. But I think that one of my biggest goals would be to collab with 2 particular people on my list, and then also my mama Chica. I gotta collab with her. That's a big goal. Because I keep wanting to reach out to her, but I get tired and busy. And I think my main goal would be to stop, or to get myself in a better mental health place to achieve those goals too, because I think that my mental health has been a bit rough lately. And so I think main goal 55 viewers average, extra goals collab with the people I want to collab with, and my mama.
Very good goals indeed. And the last question, it's something I ask all of my guests. What does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but to you, Pockeii, what does it mean to be a VTuber? Some people have sort of a very professional outlook of it is a tool that I use as a content creator. Other people have it as a very personal thing of it allows me to connect with my inner child or be somebody that I can't be in real life, that there's a full spectrum of answers, no right or wrong. But for you, what does it mean to be a VTuber?
Thank God he gave me examples, because at first I was like, what? Yeah, so I do understand both. Or those perspectives that you laid out. I think that it's putting your inside out in a lot of ways. Because, like, you could, when I first asked for my model to be designed, I asked somebody on Fiverr, and I said that I wanted it to kind of, because, like, you know, for example, I said I kind of want to have a Sonic tattoo on it because I have a Sonic tattoo in real life. And, you know, I said that if I was streaming with just me, then I would show it. And they said, do you really need a model if it's just going to be you? And I was like, yeah, I do need a model, because at first I was like doubting myself, and I was like, yeah, I do need a model, because I want an aesthetic. I want to feel like I can like I can connect with people in a way that, you know, my insides are out, and I don't have to like work too hard to get in front of a camera or anything. And that's the technical aspect. But the other part is, like, you know, I think that it's also amazing for people who don't feel like their insides and outsides match. And for example, become anime girl profit. I think it's good. One example I would come with, I have a V sister Patty. She's a trans woman. It's so much better for her to be able to show what's inside of her, because she's trans. So a lot of people look at her and think a certain way, but they don't see what's inside. So she's projecting that part of herself in her streams and showing exactly how she wants to be seen. And I think that's something really beautiful about being a VTuber. And that's an extreme example. Some people like just want minor tweaks. Like I wanted minor tweaks. And I think that VTubing gives you an opportunity to be whatever you want to be, you know?
Yeah, that's super cool. And one of the reasons I asked that question is because, like I said, there's no right or wrong answer, and that every answer I receive, even if some are similar, it's never the exact same. And I always feel like I don't necessarily know how a guest is going to answer it. But once a guest answer it, every time, without fail, I always sort of just sit back and say, yes, that makes sense for this person. For as much as I know them after, you know, what admittedly, you know, is a short interview, but it fits. And I think that it's cool to sort of hear that from each individual, which is why I asked the question. So thank you so much for your input, for your perspective, for your passion. Talking Sonic, I didn't know how long we were going to talk Sonic. We probably got on that for a good 40 minutes, and every minute of it, but that was gold. That was so good.
I have a lot to talk about when it comes to Sonic.
And just learning more about ARGs, learning stuff about Akechi.
No, shut up. I was going to pretend you didn't say it.
Okay. But in all seriousness, this has been so much fun. I cannot thank you enough. I will definitely be tuning in for at least part of the Uncapped Subathon. Be sure to hydrate. Be sure to make sure that you are actually, you know, eating proper meals tomorrow. I know time is going to fly, but do take care of yourself. Hey, nothing wrong with ordering out as long as you're eating real food and making sure that you're just actually being healthy. That I'm sure you're going to have a great time. I wish you all the best. Thank you to everyone who's been here in chat. I actually missed a couple follows. Let me bring those up. Thank you, Cecil F. and Nothing But Mustard. That's a fun name.
Yeah, Mustard's a good guy. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us.
Yes. Any last things that you want to plug or shout out before we head out?
My Twitter. I want to reach 1,000 followers. I've been stuck on 900 for a while, but thank you.
Twitter
it's okay that
link and the Twitch one are right there at the bottom of the screen, folks. So go give Pockeii a follow on both, and be sure to tune in for her subathon tomorrow.
Thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. So thank you all again for tuning in. I'm Jay. This is Vtuber Talk. I do a different interview with people every week. I already have my guest for next week lined up. I'm very excited. Well, frankly, I'm excited for every interview because I don't invite people on the show unless I know their content and unless I like their content. So again, thank you, Pockeii.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see what you do next. And just have a fantastic, fantastic night. Thank you all so much. And I will see you all next time.